You know those massive billion-dollar projects we see as these incredible symbols of progress? Well, what happens when the super complex safety systems that are supposed to protect them just fail? Today, we're going to dig into why these systems can become so dangerously weak and how the cracks start to form way before any disaster ever strikes. I mean, it's a wild question, right? You look at these absolute marvels of engineering and you just assume safety is a given. But deep down, under the surface, hidden fractures can turn that symbol of progress into a place of enormous risk. So what's really causing this breakdown? Okay, to really get the risk, we first have to understand the environment we're in. We're talking about EPC projects. That stands for engineering, procurement, and construction. And listen, these are not just big buildings. We're talking monumental ventures. Think power plants, refineries, with thousands of people and incredibly high-risk jobs, all happening at the exact same time. Now, to manage all that crazy risk, every single project has what's called an HSE system. That's health, safety, and environment. For our purposes, let's call it the project's safety shield. It's this whole protective framework that's designed to stop anyone from getting hurt. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll kick things off with why that safety shield is so fragile. Then we'll look at failures that start at the very top and those that happen right on the ground. We'll cover the really high cost of failure, and then we'll wrap up by figuring out what it takes to build a system that's actually resilient. All right, Section 1, the fragile safety shield. So how do those first, often totally invisible cracks even begin to show up? See, the safety shield isn't just one document or one person. It's this complex, interconnected system of leadership, processes, and culture. And just like any shield, it is only as strong as its weakest point. A failure in just one of those areas can compromise the entire thing. So where do those weaknesses even come from? Well, that brings us right to Section 2, top-down failures. The most dangerous breakdowns, believe it or not, often start at the highest levels, with leadership and the very documents that are supposed to be the project's Bible. Safety culture starts at the top, period. When senior managers are ghosts on the site, or when safety isn't a non-negotiable topic in every single meeting, it sends a message. And it's a loud one. It's not just about rules, it's about trust. When workers see their leaders cutting corners to hit a deadline, they learn that their own safety is, well, negotiable. That's how the shield cracks. Weak governance always leads to a weak safety culture. And this right here is the fundamental conflict. On paper, on the banners, everywhere, it says safety first. But when the actions on the ground scream that production and schedule are the real priorities, workers learn that safety rules can be bent. That gap between what's said and what's done, that's where trust dies and risk skyrockets. This leadership gap then creates these massive systemic failures. When the foundation is weak, the paperwork just crumbles. Suddenly, critical ISO documents are missing, audits become a joke, and there's no formal way to communicate safety information. Without a central hub for data, safety becomes a guessing game instead of a science. Which leads us to Section 3, on-the-ground gaps. You see, these high-level failures, they don't just stay in the boardroom. They create real, tangible, daily dangers for every single person on the site. This is where the cracks in that shield become visible threats. A massive chunk of the risk comes from something as basic as deploying workers without actually checking if they're competent. This gets even worse when you add ineffective daily safety briefings. We call them toolbox talks, that are really just a tick box exercise, sometimes in a language the workers don't even understand. Throw in some weak training programs, and you've literally got a recipe for disaster. Now, one of the most critical systems on the ground is the permit to work, or PW system. Think of it like the final, ultimate gatekeeper for any high-risk job, a formal process to control things like heavy lifting or working in tight spaces. Ideally, the process is super strict. You assess the risk, you issue a permit with crystal clear controls, you go out and verify those controls are in place, and then the job gets done safely. But the reality? You got overloaded offices, not enough staff, and these critical permits turn into routine paperwork, just stamped and issued without any real verification. The gatekeeper has basically left the building. And what about the HSE team itself? The supposed guardians of safety? Well, they're often stretched so thin that they spend a mind-blowing 70% of their time on admin and housekeeping tasks. That leaves them almost no time to focus on the things that could actually kill someone, managing the most critical, high-severity hazards on site. And the problems just keep piling up.
Reports on unsafe conditions get filed but are never actually checked. Safety inspections focus on whether things are tidy, not on real hazards. Safety programs get zero engagement. Pretty soon, even the emergency drills are a joke. The whole system is failing at every single level.
So, what happens when all of these failures finally crash together? That brings us to Section 4, the high cost of failure. This is the moment the safety shield doesn't just crack, it completely shatters. And the consequences? They're devastating.
Let's just start with the financial hit. A single incident can trigger millions of dollars in penalties, fines, and project delays. And this is not some made-up number. It represents the massive business risk that is tied directly to poor safety. But the cost goes so far beyond just money. The damage to your reputation can be catastrophic. When a major client says something like this, it's not just about one project anymore. Your ability to win any future business is now on the line. Trust, once it's shattered, is incredibly difficult to get back. And this really shows the full domino effect. It starts with the very real risk of hurting people, but it quickly spirals into failing your clients, facing lawsuits, destroying your reputation, and threatening the entire future of the business. A weak safety system puts absolutely everything at risk. But it doesn't have to end this way. And that brings us to our final section, forging a resilient system. How can we actually take these hard lessons and rebuild that safety shield, making it stronger than it ever was before? The solution really comes down to building and reinforcing 8 fundamental pillars. And you'll notice each one is a direct answer to the failures we've been talking about. Active leadership, verified competency, solid documentation, a strict PTW system, training that actually works, honest reporting, realistic emergency plans, and real, genuine engagement from the workforce. And let's be clear, strengthening these pillars isn't just about ticking boxes for compliance. It's about building a reliable system that actually becomes a core business advantage. A strong safety shield doesn't just protect people, it protects the project and it ensures progress. And that leaves us with one final and pretty direct question. Is your organization actively out there testing its safety shield for these hidden cracks, or is it just waiting for it to shatter? The choice and all the consequences that come with it are yours. Thanks for joining this explainer.